All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Wednesday, April 9th of 2025, and looking ahead here, we had an 8-game early MLB slate get underway earlier today. Good luck to all of you playing that slate. We have a 5-game MLB main slate later this evening, 6-game NBA slate, 5-game NHL slate, and then we have the Masters teeing off tomorrow morning. So should be a fun rest of the week of DFS. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions, get your questions in one of 3 ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there's a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days. Get your questions answered. Before we get started, wanted to call this out again. Called this out yesterday, but want to mention it one more time as we get super close here. And in case you guys missed it, we are bringing back the birdie battle for 2025 here. We did it was our first time doing it last year. We sent one person and a +1 to the Masters this year. They're going to have an awesome time. And we're giving away a bunch of awesome stuff. So the birdie battle is your chance to win brag-worthy SaberSim gear, DraftKings credit, entry into our end of the season 15K free roll, and the grand prize 2 tickets to Saturday and Sunday at the Masters. Okay. We did make some updates to this. So Masters locks tomorrow morning. And in case you guys didn't know, we are going to be giving away a hat to everyone who plays this week. So you will get a SaberSim hat like this if you guys participate in the birdie battle this week. So in order to sign up, you use this page here. I will drop it here in the chat. And you use this enter the battle button, follow the rules section. You can check out the schedule, all of the prizes that we're giving away, and participate all season long. So, one cool thing with this, right, is if you only want to play the majors, there are prizes for only the majors. If you want to play all 14 weeks on the schedule, you can do that as well, right? So, bunch of stuff we're giving away here. Super excited about it, and we can't wait for the Masters to get underway tomorrow. All right, cool. Well, with that said, let's get over to SaberSim. And you know what? Let's go to the Masters. So why don't we pull this up? Golf, PGA. And we'll give this a second to load. All right. Cool. So, first question that came in. Question says, hi, Andrew. If I'm doing autofill while using the starter plan, do I need to select the proper SaberScore slate sizes for each contest, or does autofill select this automatically? Good question. So if you're using SaberScore, okay, and you are on starter, what you mostly need to focus on, and we'll just kick something off here. I was doing some testing earlier. What you mostly need to focus on is the second half of the SaberScore, okay? So that's going to be the contest sizing, right? So, well, for golf, technically, we're going to use the single game SaberScore just because of the format here. Oh, no, actually, golf has specific SaberScores. Okay, so good. So there is no large slate, small slate with golf. That was kind of the point I was trying to make. So you don't need to focus on that. In other sports, you might, right? So if you're like playing baseball, and you're doing, there's going to be large slate and small slate. Just so you guys know, 2 to 5 games is what we consider small. 6 or more games is what we consider large. The builder should select that part for you automatically, right? But if you're using autofill, then what you mostly want to focus on is the number of entries in each contest that you are playing, okay? So depending on the number of entries, you want to select that specific SaberScore, okay? So I was doing a demo here earlier, just entered a couple things. So what you could do, right? So you see contest size, right? So then I would come into this SaberScore. Okay, this one's 50K plus. And then, okay, this one is 10K to 50K. And then boom, I'd be done, right? And then I would save and then I'd be ready to go. So that's what you want to focus on, this contest size. If you don't see it, you can go and you can right click on any column header, go to edit columns, and then you can come in here and you can add it as a default column. So it makes it a little bit easier to have that information available to you. All right. Good stuff there. Jonesy said, can you explain adjusted ownership in relation to the Masters Milky lineups? For sure. So adjusted ownership. Okay. So basically what adjusted ownership does, and I'll drag this over. So what it's doing is it's looking at the player's range of outcomes in the Sims. So when you click on any player, it pulls up their graph, right? And then it's looking at this range of outcomes. Oh, Millie. All right. It's all good. It's all the same. Adjusted ownership is going to be the same. So it's saying, okay, this is the player's range of outcomes. This is how often, they miss the cut. This is how often they hit their projection. This is their upside outcomes, right? It's looking at all that. And then it's looking at their ownership. And then it's basically telling you, hey, do we think this player is a good play at this ownership? Okay. So for instance, what we see with like Sergio Garcia, right? His adjusted ownership is kind of high or is higher than his ownership, right? 23.5 adjusted, 20.3 regular ownership. What SaberSim is saying is like, hey, we think this guy is a little bit risky at this ownership. This might be too much ownership for this player. And then if you change ownership, it's going to impact the adjusted, right? So if I drop his ownership from 20 to 15, then what happens, and I'll bring adjusted back, these numbers get a lot closer, right? What if I drop him to 10? Okay, I drop him to 10%. Notice at 10%, the numbers are about equal. So what SaberSim is telling me is like, hey, Sergio Garcia is a way better play at 10% ownership. But at 20% ownership, his ownership starts to get a little bit too high for his likelihood of achieving a good outcome in the Sims. Okay. So then you take somebody else, right? Like Rory McIlroy, 24.66 ownership, where his adjusted is below his ownership. Well, what SaberSim is saying is like, hey, Rory is actually a fine play at this ownership. And it is, he could even probably have more ownership and continue to be a good play. So when you need to look at adjusted, look at the actual ownership, look at the adjusted. If adjusted is higher, that player is a little bit riskier. If the adjusted is lower, then that player is actually a really good play. Where this comes into play is in the SaberScore formulas, right? If we go look at SaberScore, one of the variables here is adjusted ownership of your lineup. That's what average is. And there's a negative weight applied. So basically, the higher the adjusted ownership, the more it actually hurts the lineup, right? It's basically taxing lineups with high adjusted ownerships, which coincides with, players being riskier and having higher adjusteds. So hope that makes sense. It's always going to come down to the ownership. If you're playing the Millie, right, it's going to be the flagship MME ownership. Things might get weird, right? If you start looking at like high stakes, single entry, and ownership starts to like really condense around some plays. So all that can come into play. But if you just understand that about adjusted, you'll be okay. All right. So far, so good here. Those were the first two questions that we had here. It looks like we don't have any others at the moment. So let's do a full build demo here. Okay. So I'm going to open up fresh build. And then what I'm going to do, right, is, I would always build the max number of lineups you can. I think leaving the salary is fine. I think opening it up is okay too. I don't know what the best lineups look like. You'd probably want to go into contest flashback and kind of check it out, right? But me personally, I'm okay giving SaberSim a little bit more wiggle room than a little bit less here. I'm not going to apply any filters. The only rule here is like this default rule, no miscut or out players. And I'm not going to really touch anybody's projection or ownership or anything like that. So I think that's a fine approach. If you wanted to, right, if say you were going to do some type of duplication work in the post build, which I don't think is super necessary, but you could do it. I would consider standardizing all the ownerships, right? Like making the minimum 1. That way there's no multiplication by 0 at any point. So that's just like a little food for thought if you're doing duplication related stuff. I don't know how impactful it'll be, right? This tournament's a little bit different. A lot of the golf tournaments are like 150 golfer fields. This one has about like 90, right? So a lot more players are going to get through to the weekend, like percentage wise, and there's going to be less players missing the cut, so more 6 of 6s going into the weekend and things like that. So the cut isn't as detrimental as it is on other type of tournaments. So you could consider doing some duplication, but I'm not going to do any personally. Now, we get in here, right? We do have to make our 2 small adjustments to projections to generate lineups. Let's go 71.86. All right, cool. So make 2 updates, kick off these lineups. Now, what you can do, right? What I would probably do is go and check out the weather report here, right? So it's the Roto Grinders weather dashboard run by Kevin Roth. Also does MLB and other sports. This is a free thing that he does, which is cool. So check out the weather, right? So Thursday green, Thursday AM green, Thursday PM green, Friday AM green, Friday PM a little bit yellow. This overall section will just kind of give you the information you need. I don't think weather is going to play a huge role here. Friday AM golfers get slightly less wind than a Friday PM golfer. So a Thursday PM, Friday AM draw would be my slight preference, but even that may not be the right call because you have a slightly better chance of seeing some rain. I don't expect weather will make or break you either way. Just something good to check and make sure that there's no clear and obvious, kind of signs here. So I don't think weather is going to be super important. So I'm just going to leave that alone. Now getting into this, right? Okay. So say, primarily building 20 lineups for the $10 contest, right? Want to have a little bit of fun here. Cool. So come in here, right? I get my columns kind of the way I like them. Here, I'm sorting by my metric. I have my average projection, my average ROI. Now I kind of want to start making some decisions, right? So for me, big things, exposure, leverage, pool. Right off the bat, this is actually a question I've gotten a lot like the last couple of days. Should you use min uniques in golf? There's nothing to say that you can't, okay? Now, usually the higher sim diversity is, the more diverse your builds are going to be automatically here. Again, it always comes down to what the risk is in your lineups and how it looks. So like here, right, our highest exposed golfer is 35%. And our top leverage is about 14%. No one over 20%. A lot of these leverages are like really, really flat. For me, right, just looking at this is diverse enough for me. I'm okay playing this as is. I wouldn't make any adjustments, honestly. Now, you could use min uniques, right? I could come in, I can crank this from 1 to 2. I notice that the aggregate metrics don't change when I do that. What does that mean? That means that there are already 2 players different from every other lineup in our top 20. Okay. So that's great. So we go to 3. Okay. There is a slight adjustment here at 3, right? Where were we at? 2. Oh, I know why. Because this is using target. Hold on. Oops. Okay, one more time. That should work. Yeah, our targets update. Okay, cool. So let's come back, do that again. All right, so back to 1 unique. We go to 2 uniques. Aggregate metrics don't change. We go to 3 uniques. Slight change, super slight change. So here, right, we're at 3 uniques. and our lowest lineup is lineup 22. That just tells you how diverse these lineups are. Okay, well, what if we go to 4? 4 is okay too, right? That gets us down to lineup 24. So that tells you like you're getting a very, very diverse set of lineups. Again, you can use this if you want. If you want to be this flat, like look, no leverage over 10%. Okay, so at 4, you get no leverage over 10%. At 3, you get 1 leverage over 10% on Hovland. And then at 1, we were getting leverage up to 13.9%. So all these, it's super, super user specific here. Me, I'm okay taking stands. This is fine with me. Some people might not like this, and they're like, you know what? I would rather be even closer to the field in the ownership and be even flatter. Like that's okay. So that's what you want to kind of figure out. But the point is, it's okay to use this, right? The min uniques though is just a diversification tool. It helps you spread out your risk. It helps you to get less leverage and be more spread out. You can leave it at 1. It's okay. Like people are like, hey, I saw Jordan leave it at 1. Oh my God. What do I do? It's like, well, if 1 looks good to you, then leave it at 1. Like if it doesn't, change it, right? You can also not use it, right? You just got to figure out what you want your lineups to look like. Okay. So that's a big thing there. But aside from that, I'm really letting the sim do its thing. That's why I open up the salary. That's why I don't apply any filters or rules. I make the 2 minimum required projection adjustments. I'm doing what I think I'm best at managing risk, trying to get spread out. And then I'm letting SaberSim handle the rest, right? So that's what I would be doing, building Masters lineups for tomorrow. But hope that gives you guys some ideas heading into the evening here and finalizing those lineups. But good stuff so far. Let me circle back to office hours. And still caught up there, still caught up in the YouTube chat. Okay, one more time, gonna plug this before we get out of here. Birdie Battle. Don't forget to sign up. Everybody who participates this week gets a free SaberSim hat. Okay, you guys can check it out here. Super awesome. We're gonna be giving away prizes all summer long, every week for every tournament on the schedule. And then the grand prize is gonna be 2 tickets to next year's Masters. We're already sending somebody to this year's Masters, which is super cool. We had 1 Millie Maker winner last year in golf. Shout out Pittsburgh Payment Plans. And I want to say somebody else had like a really big golf takedown, but I could be wrong there. But either way, we are looking forward to seeing your guys winning screenshots. I will see you all tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, for our next show. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.